Dito ka na. Nilagay ko na kasi ano yung mababa.
Grabe, yung may balay. Ano, benching? Benching.
We harvest love from every thorn and rose. Yet people often forget the open doors. Temptation stares to paths explored, isolated from mysteries on the ancient floors. Beyond the crusted halls of cold decree, a silver spirit wanders wild and free, watching the phantom season softly pass, dissolve into remains of nothing but ash. Knowledge decides who holds the crown. What makes humans no different from a ghost town? But souls aren't born just to be slaves, to swallow all what the kingdom gave. Such wisdom is vintage, but not alone, where experts page the truth in cold disguise. Truth has neither wings nor copper rings, so does prudence without ardent yearning. Scholars forgotten their first religion, the artist who once sought lost hollow, empty, monotonous. Is that all there is to this? To well that is, and to well unseen, why one is spoke to the ocean sea, to question the root, what told to take, beyond that of the blur winds. The pursuit of gnosis is a journey, awaiting for the mind to be ready. As the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a dancing fire that needs to be full.
The motions of science, a conniving shape, moves society along as I linger in place, gazing back at the reasons I keep my distance. Curiosity becomes my best resistance.
Unexplored, unseen.
Okay, so first let's talk about the summary of our my agent. Okay, so first we'll be talking about the 5-point summary. It's mostly going to be phrases. Kasi we're going to explain the poem and yun yung magiging explanation namin for the 5-point summary. So, regarding the group course presentation, we have first, curiosity is what makes us human. Do you agree with this? Yeah, me too, me too. Okay, number 2, knowledge should not be cold memorization. Agree or no? Okay, number 3, science and technology must not replace reflection. Agree? Number 4, true wisdom comes from both reason and feelings. And number 5, keeping wonder alive is an art of resistance.
No!
That's why we're here. We're going to find out what this means.
So we're playing the first stanza. We harvest love from every thorn and rose, yet people often forget the unopened doors. The temptation stares the paths explored, isolated from mysteries on the ancient floors. This stanza talks about the paths that people often take. We follow what is already given to us, and in doing so, we are unable to see what the other paths have in store for us. We harvest, meaning not just from the beauty, but from the struggle of not having all the answers. It is easier to walk a path explored, the established facts, than to open a new door into the unknown. We tend to leave it to experts to tell us what it all means. By doing so, we stay on the well-trodden path and forget to look for our own unopened doors, our untapped potential, or our fear of the unknown. The unopened doors represent the questions we stopped asking once we became grown-ups or experts. They are the mysteries of life that remain hidden because we stopped being curious. Society often focuses on so much of what we already know, the science we already mastered, that we forget that there is an entire universe of things we haven't even dared to look at. We are often veered away from original thinking because following the status quo is safer and requires less effort than forging our own path to wonder. This concludes with the consequence of choosing the easy path.
For the second stanza, this stanza talks about a society that is monotonous, relying on only scientific knowledge. It is a society where being smarter is more looked upon than being creative. That little curiosity is shut down by defined answers. The cloistered halls of cold decree represents the scientism. The halls are the experts that say science is the only truth. It is cold because it values data over feelings and imagination. The silver spirit is our natural curiosity, our sense of wonder, and it is the part of you that wants to be wild and free and ask why. Phantom seasons relates to alienation. When society is so monotonous and focused on defined answers, time starts to feel like it's empty or it's fake, like Python. And lastly, dissolve into remains of nothing but ash. It is a stifling of curiosity. We stop being creative individuals and just become mere animals who just follow rules and instructions. If we don't protect our curiosity, it eventually burns out and disappears. Sige, ano sir?
And so, to connect the second stanza to the third stanza, knowledge decides who holds the crown. What makes humans so different from a ghost town? So we are told to follow the knowledge and the science that we are taught. The question is only to aggravate the situation. With this, then we are no different from robots and AIs that are merely programmed just to digest and follow what's been instructed to them. But souls aren't born just to be slaves, to swallow all of what the kingdom gave. As humans, we are supposed to question and be curious about everything, even the truths that are told to us, and not just accept it at face value, but also understand and question it ourselves.
So for the next stanza,
somewhere like, hey, I can give you this kind of money like as a copper, like an economic value to get this phone. No, truth is not like that. The truth, you need to get it from yourself. When you want to seek something, the truth, you need to find it to yourself and question everything. Why? And so does prudence without ardent yearning. So that prudence means like you do something logical or something and logical. So without ardent yearnings, without seeking the desire to seek the knowledge, the desire to seek the truth, so prudence will be nothing. So like when you have this item and then you don't know how to use it, you're not curious on how to use it, so its value becomes worthless. So you should always think, you should always be curious and ethical.
The next stanza. Scholars who forgotten the first edition, and the artist who once sought a lost solution. Hollow, empty monotonous, and is that all there is? So this stanza basically highlights intellectual and creative stagnation. What would happen if curiosity was allowed to be burned out? So by highlighting these first two lines, the scholars and the artist, like, overall, these two have a common theme. They lost their first volition, their original passion, and ceased to search for a deeper truth, suggesting that knowledge and skill are not sufficient for meaningful life. Without active effort to maintain a sense of wonder, even the best of pursuits can become hollow, empty, and monotonous. And this line is that all there is to this. It's more of a wake-up call, warning that if we stop seeking the unknown, we are left with a robotic existence, devoid of the spark that makes us truly alive.
So the next stanza is mostly questioning about, why are we questioning stuff? So the world that is and the world that is. There's so much possibilities in this unforeseen. There's infinite possibilities. If we do not question whatever our world around us, like, why do we need nursing? The number one question of philosophers, why?
needs to be fed, rather than just a storage unit to be packed away. As true learning sparks curiosity, creativity, and passion. Okay, now so for our last stanza, the chase of knowledge can be manipulative. It teaches us like a lot of things, diba? Yung mga technology, science, all of these developments. It can improve our livelihood. It can improve our quality of life, diba? It can, pero sometimes it shows us na parang the more knowledge you have, yun na yung basis of how smart someone is. The more knowledge you have, that means you're really smart, and the more useful you are to society. And like, parang sila yung pinaka-worthy of, like, basta they're like really worthy people to be like in high positions, gano'n. Kasi nga, they've gone through rigorous studies, like, ang dami na nilang napagdaan na mag-aaral. Yet, over time, life feels linear, gano'n. Like, parang, when they tell you to do this, gagawin mo naman, di ba? Like, no questions asked, gano'n. But then you realize that you should ask. You should ponder, like, ponder. Gano'n, you have to think, gano'n, you have to ask questions. Like, yeah, we can live in a society that's advancing technologically, scientifically advancing lagi. Pero, like, we can't live on something that only highly depends on machinery, on science, without asking things. Kasi nga, di ba, like we said, by defined answers na yun, ano yung tatanggapin na lang natin? How did humans even find out about these things in the first place? Kasi nga, nag-question sila, di ba? They ask questions, what can we do with this? Or like, why is the world like this? They ask questions, which led to like mga scientific development. But we've come to a point where we rely so much on these defined answers or mga found answers nila that para sa atin is we depend na yung mga sa found answers nila and like parang hindi na tayo nagtatanong masyado. So like, like how are we supposed to evolve even further and how can we even build like our minds? Like for example, AI has been one of like, let's say the most helpful things sa akin, I'm not gonna lie. Pero na-realize ko din na parang making this poem, I could not think of like how to formulate it without like a proper research. Like I actually have to make research ganon kasi you know, you have to build up that knowledge. So yeah, we must keep talaga our wonder and our curiosity kasi we cannot always follow what is given to us. Like parang, for example, this technology is good for improving our quality of life. I should get it. But if you ask, for example, how does this affect nature? Let's say, how could this affect the climate? How could this implicate me? When you're curious about something, you think about multiple futures that can open up your way to other possibilities.